I often think back to the day I first met Sarah. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, the kind that makes you feel alive, with leaves swirling in the wind like confetti celebrating the start of something beautiful. She was sitting on a park bench, engrossed in a book, her auburn hair catching the sunlight just right. I remember the way she looked up, her green eyes sparkling with curiosity as I approached. That moment felt like fate, and I was convinced I had found my soulmate. Fast forward 5 years, and our life together has been a tapestry woven with laughter, shared dreams, and the occasional argument over whose turn it was to take out the trash. We had built a comfortable life in our suburban home, complete with a white picket fence and a golden retriever named Max. But lately, something felt off. It was subtle at first, like a whisper in the back of my mind that I couldn't quite place. Sarah had always been dedicated to her fitness, but her recent obsession with the gym was starting to raise my eyebrows. She had signed up for a new class that promised to whip her into shape, and I was supportive at first. After all, who wouldn't want a healthy partner? But as the weeks went by, her late-night gym sessions became more frequent, and I found myself questioning the sincerity of her commitment to fitness. "Just one more class this week, babe," she would say, her voice laced with enthusiasm as she slipped on her sneakers. I would nod, forcing a smile, but inside, a knot of unease began to tighten. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her late-night workouts than she was letting on. I tried to dismiss my suspicions as paranoia. After all, I trusted Sarah. She was my wife, my partner, the woman I had vowed to love and cherish. But as I watched her leave the house, the door clicking shut behind her, I couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety. What was she doing during those hours when I was left alone with my thoughts? The days turned into weeks, and my unease morphed into a gnawing suspicion. I began to notice other changes in her behavior. She was more secretive with her phone, often texting with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I would catch her glancing at her screen, quickly turning it away when I entered the room. It was as if she was guarding a treasure, and I was the intruder. One evening, as I sat on the couch flipping through channels, I overheard her on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, almost conspiratorial. "I can't wait to see you again," she said, followed by a soft giggle that sent chills down my spine. My heart raced as I strained to hear more, but she quickly ended the call and returned to the living room, her demeanor casual, as if nothing had happened. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light, but the tension in my voice betrayed me. "Oh, just a friend from the gym," she replied, brushing it off with a wave of her hand. "You know how it is, everyone's trying to motivate each other." I wanted to believe her, but the words felt hollow. The knot in my stomach tightened further, and I found myself spiraling into a dark abyss of doubt. I began to replay every moment, every conversation, searching for clues that would either confirm my fears or set my mind at ease. As the days passed, I became a detective in my own home, scrutinizing her every move. I started to keep track of her gym schedule, noting the times she left and returned. I even began to question my own sanity, wondering if I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. One night, after another late gym session, I decided to confront her. I had to know the truth. As she walked through the door, her cheeks flushed and her hair damp with sweat, I felt a surge of determination. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. She looked taken aback, her eyes widening in surprise. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that could change everything. "I've noticed you've been spending a lot of time at the gym lately. Is there something you want to tell me?" Her expression shifted, a flicker of something, fear, guilt, crossing her face before she masked it with a smile. "I'm just trying to get in shape, honey. You know how important it is to me." But as I looked into her eyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface. The calm before the storm was palpable, and I braced myself for the tempest that was about to unfold. The days that followed my confrontation with Sarah were a blur of confusion and anxiety. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, balancing between trust and suspicion. Each time she left for the gym, I found myself counting the minutes until her return, my mind racing with possibilities. What if she was seeing someone else? What if my instincts were right all along? I tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, but the tension in our home was palpable. I would catch her glancing at her phone, her expression shifting from joy to apprehension as I entered the room. It was as if she was living a double life, and I was the unsuspecting husband in a twisted tale of betrayal. One evening, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I had to know what was happening during those late-night gym sessions. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial, a piece of the puzzle that would either confirm my worst fears or set my mind at ease. I began to follow her. It started innocently enough. I told myself I was just being a concerned husband. I waited until she left for her evening class, then slipped into my car and followed her. My heart raced as I drove through the familiar streets, the glow of streetlights illuminating my path. I felt like a spy, lurking in the shadows, desperate for answers. As I trailed behind her, I noticed her driving patterns were erratic. She took a route that led away from the gym, and my heart sank. Where was she going? I followed her for what felt like an eternity, my mind racing with possibilities. Finally, she pulled into a parking lot of a small cafe, one I had never seen her visit before. I parked a distance away, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched her step out of the car. She looked around, her expression cautious, before entering the cafe. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I realized I was about to uncover the truth. I waited, my breath shallow, as I watched her through the window. She sat at a table, her phone in hand, and I strained to see who she was meeting. Moments later, a man walked in. He was tall, with dark hair and an easy smile that made my stomach churn. They exchanged pleasantries, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I watched them lean in closer, their laughter echoing in my ears. I couldn't hear their conversation, but the body language spoke volumes. They were too comfortable with each other, too familiar. My heart raced as I fought the urge to storm in and confront them. Instead, I remained frozen in my seat, a silent observer to the unraveling of my marriage. As the minutes ticked by, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I had trusted her, believed in our love, and now I was watching it slip away like sand through my fingers. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I knew I had to remain calm. I needed to gather evidence, something concrete that would shatter the illusion of our perfect life. After what felt like an eternity, Sarah and the man stood up, their laughter still ringing in my ears. They walked out of the cafe together, and I felt a surge of rage as I watched them. I couldn't let this go on any longer. I had to confront her, but I needed to be smart about it. I returned home, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and revenge. I replayed the evening in my head, the image of Sarah and that man etched into my memory. I felt like a detective piecing together a case, and I was determined to uncover the truth. The next day, I decided to dig deeper. I started by going through her phone when she left for work. I knew it was a violation of her privacy, but I felt justified. I needed to know if my suspicions were valid. I scrolled through her messages, my heart pounding as I searched for any sign of infidelity. At first, I found nothing out of the ordinary, just texts between her and her friends, reminders about gym classes, and mundane conversations. But then, I stumbled upon a thread that made my blood run cold. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one message read, followed by a string of heart emojis. My heart sank as I read the replies, filled with flirtation and innuendo. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. This was it, the evidence I had been searching for. I quickly put the phone back where I found it, my hands trembling. I felt a mix of anger and despair wash over me. How could she do this to me? How could she betray the vows we had made to each other? As the day wore on, I felt a storm brewing inside me. I was no longer the passive husband, waiting for answers. I was a man scorned, and I was ready to take action. I began to formulate a plan, one that would expose her betrayal and force her to confront the reality of her actions. I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't let her suspect that I was onto her. I needed to gather more evidence, to build a case that would leave no room for denial. The thought of confronting her filled me with dread, but I knew it was inevitable. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I felt a sense of resolve wash over me. I would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. I would confront her, and when I did, I would make sure she understood the depth of her betrayal. The calm before the storm was over. The winds of change were beginning to howl, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The following days felt like a slow-motion train wreck, each moment stretching into eternity as I prepared for the inevitable confrontation with Sarah. I had gathered enough evidence to confirm my worst fears, but the weight of that knowledge was almost unbearable. I felt like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss, knowing that one misstep could lead to my downfall. I spent my days in a haze, going through the motions of work and social interactions while my mind was consumed with thoughts of betrayal. I replayed the messages I had found on her phone over and over, each word cutting deeper than the last. "Can't wait to see you tonight." The phrase echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, a reminder of the love I thought we shared and the trust that had been shattered. One evening, I decided to take a different approach. Instead of waiting for Sarah to leave for the gym, I would confront her directly. I needed to see her reaction when I revealed what I knew. I wanted to watch the color drain from her face as the truth unfolded before her. As the clock ticked closer to her usual departure time, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I had rehearsed what I would say 1,000 times in my head, but now that the moment was upon me, I felt a knot of fear tighten in my stomach. What if she denied everything? What if she turned it around on me, making me feel like the villain in this twisted narrative? When Sarah walked through the door, her gym bag slung over her shoulder, I took a deep breath and steeled myself. She greeted me with a smile, but it felt forced, like a mask she wore to hide her true self. "Hey, babe. Ready for dinner?" she asked, her voice bright and cheerful. I nodded, but my heart was racing. "Actually, Sarah, we need to talk." Her smile faltered, and I could see the flicker of concern in her eyes. "What's wrong?" I took a step closer, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "I know about the messages, Sarah. I know you're seeing someone else." The color drained from her face, and for a moment, I thought she might deny it. But instead, she froze, her eyes widening in shock. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, the screen illuminating the darkened room as I showed her the messages I had found. "These. Who is he, Sarah? Who are you meeting at that cafe?" Her expression shifted from shock to anger, and I could see the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble. "You went through my phone?" she spat, her voice rising. "How dare you invade my privacy like that?" I felt a surge of frustration. "This isn't about privacy. This is about trust. You've been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back." She crossed her arms defensively, her eyes narrowing. "You don't understand. I've been feeling so lost lately, and I needed something for myself. You've been so consumed with work, and I felt like I was fading away." I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. "So, your solution was to cheat on me? To betray our marriage?" Her expression softened for a moment, and I could see the guilt flickering in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. I never wanted to hurt you." The pain in her voice was palpable, but it only fueled my anger. "You think that makes it okay? You think I'll just forgive you because you didn't plan this?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she cried, her voice breaking. "I was lonely, and I thought I could find a way to feel alive again. I didn't think it would go this far." I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me, and I struggled to contain my emotions. "You didn't think? You didn't consider how this would affect me? How it would destroy everything we built together?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. I was too consumed by my own heartbreak to care about her remorse. "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. "I deserve to know who has taken my place in your life." She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. "His name is Mark. He's just a guy from the gym." It didn't mean anything, I swear. "Didn't mean anything?" I echoed, incredulous. You've been meeting him in secret, sharing intimate moments, and you think that doesn't mean anything? I was confused, she shouted, her voice rising again. I didn't know what I wanted. I thought I could figure it out without hurting you. I felt a surge of anger, the betrayal cutting deeper than I could have imagined. You've already hurt me, Sarah. You've shattered my trust, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this. Her shoulders slumped, and I could see the weight of her actions crashing down on her. I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you, I really do. But her words felt hollow, like a desperate attempt to salvage what was left of our marriage. I wanted to believe her, but the evidence was too overwhelming. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was now a crumbling ruin, and I didn't know how to rebuild it. As I stood there, watching the woman I loved break down before me, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I had uncovered the truth, but it had come at a cost. The life we had built together was hanging by a thread, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. The air in the room was thick with tension, a palpable weight that pressed down on both of us as we stood in the aftermath of the confrontation. Sarah's tears fell silently, each drop a reminder of the betrayal that had shattered our lives. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into the abyss of our crumbling marriage, unsure of whether to leap or retreat. Sarah, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, I don't know how we can move forward from this. You've broken my trust in a way I never thought possible. She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy, filled with a mixture of regret and desperation. I know I messed up. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could find myself again without losing you. But you did lose me, I replied, my voice steady but laced with pain. You chose to betray me instead of talking to me. Instead of seeking help or finding a way to reconnect. I was scared, she admitted, her voice trembling. I felt so alone, and I thought I could handle it. I thought I could keep it from you. Scared? I echoed, incredulous. You think that justifies what you did? You think lying and sneaking around is a solution? I didn't think it would go this far, she cried, her voice breaking. I thought it was just a fling, something to fill the void. I never meant for it to become this. I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. You don't get to decide what's just a fling when it involves someone else. You've made a choice, Sarah, and now we have to face the consequences. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the weight of her actions crashing down on her, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and betrayal that coursed through my veins. Who is this Mark? I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. What does he mean to you? He's just a guy from the gym, she insisted, her voice shaky. It didn't mean anything. I swear. I was just looking for a distraction. A distraction? I repeated, incredulous. You think that's all this was? You think you can just brush it off like it's nothing? I didn't mean to hurt you, she shouted, her frustration boiling over. I was trying to find a way to feel alive again. I thought I could do it without losing you. By cheating on me? I shot back, my anger flaring. You thought that was the answer? You thought that would make you feel better? I was confused, she cried, her voice breaking. I didn't know what I wanted. I thought I could figure it out without hurting you. I felt a surge of frustration, the betrayal cutting deeper than I could have imagined. You've already hurt me, Sarah. You've shattered my trust, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this. Her shoulders slumped, and I could see the weight of her actions crashing down on her. I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you, I really do. But her words felt hollow, like a desperate attempt to salvage what was left of our marriage. I wanted to believe her, but the evidence was too overwhelming. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was now a crumbling ruin, and I didn't know how to rebuild it. Do you love him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. No, I don't love him. It was never about love. It was about feeling lost and trying to find my way back. Then why did you let it go this far? I pressed, my heart aching. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you talk to me about how you were feeling? I thought I could handle it on my own, she admitted, her voice trembling. I thought I could find a way to feel better without dragging you into my mess. But you did drag me into it, I replied, my voice steady but filled with pain. You made a choice, and now we have to face the consequences. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the tears streaming down her face, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and betrayal that coursed through my veins. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said finally, my voice heavy with emotion. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I'll do anything to make it right, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever it takes. Just please don't give up on us. I felt a pang of sadness at her words, but I knew I had to be strong. I need time, Sarah. I need to process this. I can't just pretend everything is okay. I understand, she said softly, her voice filled with regret. I'll give you space. Just know that I love you, and I'm so sorry for what I've done. As she turned away, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I had uncovered the truth, but it had come at a cost. The life we had built together was hanging by a thread, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. The days that followed the confrontation felt like a surreal nightmare, each moment stretching into an eternity as I grappled with the reality of Sarah's betrayal. I moved through our home like a ghost, haunted by memories of laughter and love that now felt tainted by deceit. The walls that once felt like a sanctuary now loomed over me, suffocating and cold. I tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but every interaction with Sarah was fraught with tension. She would attempt to engage me in conversation, her voice tinged with desperation, but I found it difficult to respond. The words felt heavy on my tongue, weighed down by the knowledge of her infidelity. I could see the guilt etched on her face, but it did little to ease the pain in my heart. Do you want to talk about it? She would ask, her eyes searching mine for a glimmer of hope. But I would shake my head, unable to find the words. How could I articulate the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me? Anger, betrayal, heartbreak, they all collided in a chaotic storm that left me feeling lost and adrift. Instead, I threw myself into work, using it as a distraction from the turmoil at home. I buried myself in projects, pouring my energy into tasks that required my full attention. But even in the midst of deadlines and meetings, my mind would wander back to Sarah and the choices she had made. One evening, as I sat at my desk, I received a text from her. I'm really sorry for everything. I love you and want to make this right. I stared at the screen, my heart heavy with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to respond, to reassure her that I still cared, but another part of me felt a surge of anger. How could she say she loved me after what she had done? I put my phone down, frustration boiling inside me. I needed to process my feelings, to figure out what I wanted. I couldn't just sweep this under the rug and pretend everything was okay. That weekend, I decided to take a trip to my parents' house. I needed space to think, to clear my head away from the reminders of our life together. The drive was long, and as I navigated the familiar roads, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. When I arrived, my parents greeted me with open arms, their concern evident in their eyes. You look exhausted, honey, my mother said, wrapping me in a warm embrace. I've been dealing with some stuff, I replied, forcing a smile. Do you want to talk about it? My father asked, his voice gentle. I hesitated, unsure of how to explain the turmoil in my heart. Not right now. I just need some time to think. They respected my wishes, allowing me to retreat into the comfort of their home. I spent the next few days reflecting on my life, my marriage, and the choices that had led us to this point. I thought about the love I had for Sarah, the dreams we had shared, and the future I had envisioned. But I also thought about the betrayal, the way she had shattered my trust. I couldn't ignore the pain that lingered, the gnawing feeling that our relationship would never be the same. When I returned home, I found Sarah waiting for me, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. "How's your trip?" she asked, her voice tentative. "It was good," I replied, my heart heavy. "I had some time to think." "About us?" she pressed, her eyes searching mine for answers. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her gaze. "I don't know where we go from here, Sarah. I don't know if I can forgive you." Her face fell, and I could see the pain etched in her features. "I understand. I know I've hurt you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. But can you really?" I asked, my voice steady but filled with doubt. "Can you truly change? Can you rebuild the trust that you've broken?" "I want to try," she said, her voice earnest. "I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever it takes. Just please don't give up on us." I felt a flicker of hope at her words, but it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of our situation. "It's not that simple, Sarah. Trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight. It takes time, and I don't know if I'm ready for that." "I'll wait," she replied, her voice filled with determination. "I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." As I looked into her eyes, I saw a glimmer of the woman I had fallen in love with, but it was overshadowed by the betrayal that had shattered our lives. I wanted to believe her, but the scars of her actions ran deep. The weeks turned into months, and while we attempted to navigate the rocky terrain of our relationship, the shadows of doubt lingered. I found myself questioning everything, every late-night gym session, every text message, every moment of silence. I began to notice changes in Sarah as well. She was more attentive, more present, but there was an underlying tension that hung in the air. It was as if we were both walking on eggshells, afraid to trigger the wounds that had yet to heal. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I felt a surge of frustration. "Do you think we can ever go back to how things were?" I asked, my voice heavy with emotion. "I don't know," she admitted, her gaze dropping to the floor. "But I want to try. I want to rebuild what we had." "Rebuilding takes time," I replied, my heart aching. "And I don't know if I have the strength to do that right now." "I'll be here, waiting," she said softly, her voice filled with sincerity. As I looked into her eyes, I felt a mix of hope and despair. The road ahead was uncertain, and I didn't know if we would emerge stronger or if the scars of betrayal would forever haunt us. But one thing was clear, the aftermath of her infidelity had changed us both, and the journey to healing would be long and fraught with challenges. The months that followed were a delicate dance of healing and heartache. Sarah and I navigated the treacherous waters of our relationship, each day a new challenge as we tried to rebuild what had been shattered. I often found myself reflecting on the love we once shared, the laughter that filled our home, and the dreams we had woven together. But those memories were now tinged with the bitterness of betrayal, and I struggled to reconcile the two. We began attending couples counseling, a step I had initially resisted but ultimately recognized as necessary. The therapist guided us through our emotions, helping us articulate our feelings and fears. I learned to voice my pain, to express the anger that simmered beneath the surface. Sarah, in turn, began to confront her actions, acknowledging the hurt she had caused and the choices that had led us to this point. Yet, despite our efforts, the road to recovery was fraught with obstacles. I found myself haunted by moments of doubt, replaying the betrayal in my mind like a broken record. Every time Sarah received a text, my heart would race, and I would feel a surge of jealousy and insecurity. I wanted to trust her, but the scars of her infidelity were deep, and I struggled to let go of the past. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," I admitted, my voice heavy with emotion. "Every time I think we're making progress, I'm reminded of what you did." "I know," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "I'm so sorry for everything. I never wanted to hurt you. I'm trying to show you that I can be the wife you deserve." "But can you really?" I asked, my heart aching. "Can you truly change? Can you rebuild the trust that you've broken?" "I want to try," she said, her eyes pleading. "I'll do whatever it takes. Just please don't give up on us." As I looked into her eyes, I saw a glimmer of the woman I had fallen in love with, but it was overshadowed by the betrayal that had shattered our lives. I wanted to believe her, but the scars of her actions ran deep. One night, after a particularly intense therapy session, I found myself lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, the weight of our situation pressing down on me. I thought about the life we had built together, the dreams we had shared, and the love that had once felt unbreakable. But I also thought about the betrayal, the way she had shattered my trust. I couldn't ignore the pain that lingered, the gnawing feeling that our relationship would never be the same. In that moment of reflection, I realized that healing would take time for both of us to process our emotions, to confront our fears, and to rebuild the foundation of our relationship. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I also knew that I wasn't ready to give up on us just yet. The following weeks were a mix of progress and setbacks. We had moments of connection, laughter, and intimacy, but they were often followed by waves of doubt and insecurity. I found myself questioning everything, every late-night gym session, every text message, every moment of silence. But amidst the turmoil, I also began to see glimpses of hope. Sarah was making an effort to be more present, more engaged, and I could see the sincerity in her eyes when she spoke about wanting to make things right. Slowly, I started to let my guard down, allowing myself to believe that perhaps we could find our way back to each other. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. "I want to try," I said, my voice steady. "I want to believe that we can rebuild what we had." Sarah turned to me, her eyes shining with hope. "I'll do whatever it takes," she replied, her voice filled with determination. "I love you, and I'm committed to making this work." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but I was willing to take that journey with her. I knew that trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight, but I also knew that love could be a powerful force for healing. In that moment, I made a choice to embrace the uncertainty, to confront the pain, and to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. We would face the challenges together, hand in hand, and slowly but surely, we would begin to heal. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over us, I felt a sense of resolve wash over me. We had a long way to go, but I was ready to take that first step into the unknown, ready to fight for the love that had once brought us together. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit determined to heal, I took Sarah's hand, ready to face whatever came next.